Hi cuties, my name is Hanako Kozumi and this is the channel Nerdy Nekoma. Everything here is about Haikyuu chat stories and fanfic. Thanks for joining us today. If you like this video, please consider subscribing and leaving a like. And with that, welcome to today's video, or in other words, welcome to the second part of Dark Intentions. As you know, I'm really excited for this series, but it also comes with some content warnings, like implied violence, and it's overall very angsty. There will be a happy end, but not in this part, so be aware of that, and maybe if you don't want to watch it, that's completely fine. If you do want to watch it, I hope you will like it. Let's go. But before we start with this video, I have one more very exciting announcement. At least to me it's exciting because, oh my god. As some of you know, I like to draw and I made some designs which I upload to this website called Spreadshirts, and now you can actually buy them on t-shirts, as stickers, on hats, on bags, even phone cases. They have a lot and I'm very excited for this. I like them a lot. Most of them are Pride designs, but I also have some other designs. Now I can talk, and I plan on making more in the future, so if you're interested you can check it out. The link is in the description. Of course you don't have to. And now let's actually start with the video. Tokake Akasaka? Yes? The young teacher sat in front of them at the small kitchen table, fumbling restlessly with the hem of their shirt. Opposite to them sat one of Daichi's colleagues, a notebook in hand. Tokake was obviously very nervous and uncertain about the whole situation, and Daichi wished he could give them some reassuring words, but he had to settle for a kind smile, which in his state looked all but convincing and was most likely the opposite of reassuring. He was just here as an observer and to give information about Suga if necessary, or even possible for that matter. This was already pushing the boundaries. He was too close. He shouldn't be involved in this case at all. Can you please tell me what I did wrong? Daichi felt bad for them. It was only logical to jump to that conclusion, and they couldn't just tell them that that wasn't the case, not until they had gotten some much needed answers. Don't worry, for now we only have some questions. Tokake nodded slowly. My colleague here, Sawamura-san, called you about 1.5 hours ago, is that correct? Yes. He asked me about his partner, Suga-san. The officer nodded at the confirmation of Daichi's statement. Could you please repeat to me what you told him? Yes, Suga and I were the last ones at the school after parent-teacher conferences. Those tend to take a while, and we both like to get the necessary paperwork done immediately after. Also, he wanted to help me with one more thing before, but it never got to that. Suga left about 20 minutes before I did, which at the time of the call would have meant 2 hours ago. I think so. They gulped and started to nervously chew on their bottom lip. Did you notice anything weird after he left? Anything regarding his behavior, or did he say anything to you? The blue-haired shook their head. No, nothing. Though that was actually the weird part. He usually always says good morning and goodbye, not to mention that he still wanted to help me. Suga is such a considering and caring person. Toka smiled. He is the perfect teacher. The kids love him. Did you see him when he left the building? Only very briefly. I heard his steps and saw him running by the door to the office I was working in. He seemed stressed. Suddenly, the room fell silent, and the only sound was the scraping of the pencil against the paper as the police officer completed his notes. The tension weighed thick in the air. Why are you asking me all of this? Is Suga okay? He sighed and put notebook and pencil aside. I'm afraid we can't be sure about that at this point. He is currently reported as missing. Their eyes widened. What? Tokaku looked at the other in utter shock. I'm sorry, but I can assure you that we will do our best to find your colleague. Their hands grabbed the shirt they were wearing tightly, and their gaze was focused on the table in front of them until suddenly their heads snapped up. Tokaku looked at the officer with a burning intensity. His phone. Huh? He had his phone with him. I remember because he was holding it so weirdly, as if he wasn't sure if he should get away from it or hold on for dear life. But I clearly remember that he took it with him. He forgot most of his other stuff. Does that help? They didn't look away once. Every little detail can help. He looked over to Daichi. I'll call the station. Maybe it's still working. If Suga has it with him, we might be able to track him down. Daichi nodded stiffly. As soon as the officer left the room to make the call, he slumped down on the chair opposite to Toka. For a moment, no one said anything. I'm sorry. Daichi looked up, surprised, only to find tears slowly gathering in the blue-haired's eyes. If I would have stopped him or asked what was wrong, this might not have happened. Or you would be missing just like him. We don't know what happened yet, but as much as I want to deny it, it can't be good. Suga would never just run away like that. Whatever happened to him could have happened to you too. Still, wouldn't that be better than Suga? You must hate me. He's your boyfriend, and it would be better if no one got hurt. And we will make sure of that. We'll find him. They took a shaky breath and nodded. Daichi knew that wasn't all the teacher had to say about it, but he could very well sympathize with the feeling of being unable to speak, as if an invisible string was wrapping itself around the throat. What was it you wanted his help for? Huh? The thing you mentioned before, Suga wanted to help you with. Oh, that. You don't have to answer. I know that it makes you uncomfortable. How? What? How do you know that I'm uncomfortable with the topic? They looked at him, daring yet curious. Oh, sorry. I just assumed. A habit, I guess. Well, it was spot on, so how? You always said that he wanted to help you with something. I assumed it was probably something you didn't want to ask for help for. I chuckled a little. Well, you assumed correctly. I am a bit embarrassed about the whole thing. I have a classic troublemaker in my class, more than the average third grader, and I was a bit worried. His parents didn't show up to the conference, and I suggested a visit at their house to discuss their child's behavior. But primarily, I wanted to make sure that they are safe at home. They live in neighborhood, you might know it. Daichi nodded. I'm there at least twice a week. It's quite a chaotic and not necessarily safe neighborhood. Exactly. They sighed. Suga wanted to help me prepare, and maybe even accompany me there. He is a much better teacher than I am, even though we are both pretty new to this. Suga? Oh no, I wouldn't say new. Togaku looked at him surprised. He had a whole team of idiots in high school to look after and help with their homework, and those were much more chaotic than all the suspicious neighborhoods in this area together, and much more dangerous when left alone. You see, he has much more practice at this, so it's unfair to you to compare yourself to him. This time, his kind smile was real, and Toga chuckled a little again. Shouldn't you be the depressed one right now? As long as I can do something to somehow get to him, I'm good. Daichi only ever got nervous or broke down when he felt helpless, when there was nothing he could do to help anymore. Togaku nodded again. Promise me. Promise me that you will find him. I will. There is simply no other option. Toru. It's been almost 3 hours since Daichi called Togaku. Almost 5 since Suga went missing. Oikawa felt as if he was losing his mind. He had been pacing around restlessly for hours, even after Daichi got out with his colleagues to question Toka before Iwa pulled him in his arms again. It should reassure them that Daichi was allowed to take part in the investigation. It did, but the fact that they were separated from now 2 of their boyfriends made them at the very least equally as anxious. When Iwa looked down at Toru, laying on his lap, face hidden against his chest, he felt his heart sink further. He is going to find him. He will bring him home. He rubbed circles over his back soothingly, though he wasn't sure if it was to soothe himself or Aikawa. The setter nodded weakly, too exhausted to spark another argument. He wanted to believe him more than anything, but with everything that happened, he couldn't help but doubt it. He tried clinging to the almost delusional idea that Suga was fine and safe, and that there was a simple explanation as to why he wasn't here. But when they first searched the school grounds and his way home, finding nothing, his hopes faded. He will be alright. Iwaizumi whispered the words more to himself and pulled him closer, changing from rubbing his back to gently brushing his hair. They sat like that in silence for a while, savoring each other's presence, searching for comfort. When the door clicked open, announcing Daichi's return, they immediately jumped to their feet, incapable of suppressing the growing hope that Suga would be with him. Or the disappointment when he wasn't. Daichi shook his head slightly as he saw the plea in Oikawa's eyes. Nothing? You must have found something. Any kind of clue as to what happened? We did. He gulped, the memory of the phone call still vividly in his mind. Oikawa visibly tensed at the sound of Daichi's strained voice. The good news is that Tokaku-san saw how Suga took his phone with him. We might be able to find him like that. And the bad news? Daichi's jaw clenched. They found traces of blood near the school gates. It was too fresh to be from one of the children that might have fallen and scraped a knee. But that doesn't mean that it's Suga's. Regardless, Oikawa's face lost all color and Iwaizumi looked barely any better. How could it not be? His voice was bitter and shaking. It was the first time in a very long while, but suddenly, slowly, the first tear fell from Iwaizumi's eye. With everything... Why? What did Suga do to deserve this? Hajime... His body was trembling and the tears formed a steady stream, decorating his cheeks. Daichi dropped his back and rushed to pull Iwa into his arms. The older buried his face in the nape of Daichi's neck and gripped his shirt tightly. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that I couldn't do more, but I will find him, I promise. I promise. Iwa said nothing, just continued holding him for support. Oikawa stood by shocked. It wasn't that Iwa never cried, but when he did, then because he felt helpless or lost something he couldn't regain. But Suga wasn't lost, right? They could find him. Daichi could find him. He promised. He promised. The first thing he heard was a high-pitched ringing. For a few seconds he couldn't tell if it was in his head or not, but that quickly became irrelevant when the pain kicked in. Hot waves of piercing agony radiated from his neck like electricity flooding his nerves. He tried to breathe calmly and stay as still as possible until he knew what was happening. Where the hell was he? What happened? Was he alone? In danger? Where were his boyfriends? Suga felt utterly helpless as he tried to puzzle the events and fragments of memories together into one coherent picture. The room around him was dark, and when he tried to feel for his injuries, a ribbon cut into his wrist the more he tried to lift his hands. He blinked rapidly to get used to the darkness, but Suga didn't even manage to get completely rid of the blur tinting his vision. Slowly, his mind caught up with the situation. His breathing hitched and accelerated, his heartbeat sped up, and he felt his body trembling at the realization. He was trapped. Tied up. Caught. Adrenaline flooded his system and he threw himself against the restraints. In his panic, his first instinct was to pull and try to tear the tight ropes around his wrists. With every attempt, it got more and more painful. Careful, your wounds are still fresh. I treated the laceration, but it might tear if you fidget around like that. Suga froze as soon as the man started to talk. His eyes widened and he instinctively searched for the source. The light from a phone pierced through the darkness and illuminated his features. At first, it didn't help much. Suga's sight was still blurred from tears and exhaustion, and the light stung after being in the dark for so long. But after blinking a couple of times rapidly, he got used to it. He didn't need to, though. His voice had been enough to identify him without a doubt. The teacher was certain that he would never forget it. Not his voice and not his face, after he watched him beat up two of his best friends, those he tried to protect. The man at the parking lot was the same one as the one sitting opposite to him right now. What, no hello? Or thank you for treating my wounds? He placed the phone on the armrest of the chair, his brows furrowed. Don't worry, I understand. Even though I really wished you would say something, you can't imagine how excited I was for our first meeting. He smiled sweetly, almost resembling a child who has been told they would meet Santa. This isn't a first. His voice was strained and raspy from the injury to his throat. Alright, well, let's call it a first official meeting then. The other day, I didn't even get the chance to introduce myself. Suga gritted his teeth. What in hell was going on? Either he was playing mind games or was just sick. You don't even know my name, well I know everything about you. That's really not fair, though. His eyes traced Suga's hunched over figure from head to toe. They were dark, almond-shaped, even pretty, contrasting his fairly light skin and complementing the dark hair framing his face. They fixated Suga's brown ones with a cold, intense stare, which didn't match the kind smile painted on his lips. It leaves me wondering, you know? I didn't expect a friendly greeting like, let's say, two lovers meeting at the airport again after 27 months of living apart. He scanned Suga's face for any kind of reaction, observing the movements of his eyes, head, and even the quivering of his bottom lip. Suga, on the other hand, was determined not to give him what he wanted, and stoically suppressed any reaction as he named the exact time Haikyuu lived in Argentina. Yet, I did expect something on the lines of, "Who are you? What do you want from me?" or "My boyfriend will find me and get revenge." If you already know that, I obviously don't have to say it. He stared back stubbornly, even though it hurt to keep his body upright. even though he could feel his chest tightening with every breath and saw darkness at the seams of his vision. He had long lost the ability to tell if it was from panic, pain, or adrenaline. Probably all of the above. His logical thinking, as much as he tried to stay calm and rational, seemed long gone as he dared to provoke him and played his game. To his surprise, however, he laughed. This sound sent a sharp pain through his head and shivers through his bones. The most disturbing aspect was that it seemed genuine. See, that's what I like about you. You're so unpredictable and never give up. You're stubborn, a fighter. There was hardly something others would say about him. Stubborn, maybe, but unpredictable or a fighter, unlikely. Okay then, to answer your question, you can call me Ito, first of all. There were thousands, 10,000 Itos just in Japan. Even if this was his real name, the information was useless. Second, I like you. That's why. Simple, right? He gave him another bright smile. And last but not least, I wouldn't worry about your ex-boyfriend. He won't find you. No one will. No one but me. For a moment, it felt as if the air had been knocked out of his lungs. The panic was overwhelming, so much that he almost missed it. It was just a very small, yet important detail. He said boyfriend, not boyfriends. Suga didn't know what to make out of the information, but it gave him a tiny bit, a spark of hope that this guy maybe didn't know him that well after all. That he wasn't as smart as he claimed himself to be. He sighed. I would love to talk some more, but there are still some precautions to be made, and I will need to get some more medicine and painkillers for your head. But don't worry, I will be back soon. He left with his phone, in other words, the only source of light in this cursed room. But if it meant he would be alone again, Suga would embrace it. He didn't know how much time he had left until Ito would return, and he needed to make the most out of it. To gather every information about this place he could, and flee if possible. He had to constantly remind himself not to rush things, even if he would find something, not to destroy his chances. Only one thing was for sure. He wouldn't take anything Ito gave him. Thanks for watching till the end. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, consider leaving a like because it really helps my channel grow. And if you don't want to miss out on the next part, which is going to be up tomorrow, consider subscribing so you won't miss out on anything in the future. And, well, it would be great to have you here. Also, check out my Twitch. It's Nerdy Nakama, just like my YouTube channel. I will stream this day. This video comes out the day the video comes out. I'm making sense. And if you like, you can check out my shop too. Link is in the description. You don't have to, but I don't know. I'm pretty excited about this. I hope you have a wonderful day. See you soon. Hopefully.